Hi, my name is Mike Goslin, CEO of New Peak Interactive. My talk today is called Advantages of Experience-Led Design in Tech. I hope you enjoy it. What do I mean by experience-led design? Experience-led design is an approach to the design of a product that starts with a member of a target audience and focuses on an experience designed to delight that person. That experience then forms the foundation of a product vision that is used to make all the necessary decisions to design that product, from what features to include, to the look and feel of the product, to the marketing of the product. I learned experience-led design over a 20-year career at Disney, and also as an entrepreneur in the game, entertainment, and technology space. I've used experience-led design to launch successful and award-winning products across a number of categories, including online games, augmented reality and virtual reality, connected toys and Internet of Things, and theme parks. Walt Disney himself was a pioneer in experience-led design. When he set out to make the first feature-length animated film in 1937, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, he wanted to create an experience that made the audience feel like they'd been transported to a magical world. To make that world feel more real, he adopted some emerging technologies, including the synchronization of music and sound effects with animation, the use of full color, Technicolor color processing, and the multiplane camera. The multiplane camera allowed Disney to create the illusion that the camera was moving through a three-dimensional world by simulating parallax effects, where objects further from the camera move more slowly than objects nearer the camera. The multiplane camera allowed the filmmaker to divide the foreground, middle, and background elements across different planes that can be moved independently and thus achieve the desired effect. The result was a much more realistic camera shot than anyone had seen in previous animated scenes, and as a result, the audience felt transported. It worked out well for Disney. Snow White was a critical and commercial success. Walt later applied the same approach of experience-led design when he built Disneyland, and over time, experience-led design became ingrained in the very culture at Disney. When I joined Imagineering, I discovered very quickly that I was surrounded by amazing talent and was able to learn from the very best. Playmation was a project at Disney that used experience-led design. We wanted to make Marvel fans and kids feel like they had real superhero powers. That was the core experience. The story was that we were giving them some technology developed by Tony Stark, Iron Man, would give them these powers. We knew we could build the system using radios and infrared light communication between objects, but before we even developed any of the technology, we created a demo of the experience so we could test it with kids. We faked the tech by having a developer sitting behind a curtain, basically pressing buttons based on user actions. We call this type of demo Wizard of Oz. The developer watches the user via camera or other means, and when they take some type of action, a button, the developer behind the curtain pushes a button on his computer that triggers a reaction. In this case, when the user fired their repulsor blaster at a target, the developer would trigger the target to pop into the air. So to the user, it looked like they caused this to happen. This allowed us to test the core experience and see if it really was going to be fun before we spent any time building actual technology. Here's a quick video showing how Playmation worked.
Introducing Playmation Marvel's Avengers. Coming this fall, Playmation brings your favorite stories to life. How? The latest wearable technology puts you in the center of the action. You'll battle alongside Earth's mightiest heroes.
Armed and ready.
With 25 onboard missions included in the Repulsor Starter Pack. Complete missions to level up and unlock gear upgrades. Connected toys intelligently interact with each other and you. Control the adventure with wearable gear that lets you feel the blast, block, and dodge.
Hail Hydra!
Making every time you play a unique experience. It's more than what's in the box. With your parents' permission, go to the Avengers Net app on your smart device to sync your gear, track your progress, and download new adventures to keep the fun going. Playmation Marvel's Avengers. Playmation truly is the next step in the evolution of play. Visit Playmation.com with your parents for more information and how to pre-order.
Toontown Online was another experience-led design project that I worked on at Disney. Toontown Online was a massively multiplayer game for kids and families. So thousands of kids playing together over the internet in the same game, in the same space. So the core experience that we wanted to create for those players was that they could live life as a Toon in Toontown. And that implied being part of the Toontown community, which in order to have community, you needed to be able to communicate. But because this was online and it was a kids game, we had to provide a way for kids to communicate and chat safely with each other in this environment. So to do that, we invented a system called Speed Chat. And the way Speed Chat worked was you could use a pull-down menu to create phrases from pieces of phrases. You could basically chat. You could say hello and things like that, but you could also say, let's go to the trolley together, or let's meet up at a location, and so on. So you could only say things that were relevant to the game, and it really allowed you to say everything that you needed to be able to say to play the game, and plus some extra friendly stuff. And the interesting side effect of this was, because we did not include a lot of anything really negative, it was hard to say anything negative at all. We actually had people report back to us that because they were using Speed Chat, it actually made them talk more nicely to other players than they would have ordinarily if they could chat freely. And as a result, they started finding themselves behaving more nicely. And so it had this sort of interesting side effect of making the community more friendly and welcoming to new players. And so it actually helped enhance the experience of being part of the community even more than we originally intended. Here's a quick video of Toontown Online, just so you have some context.
Ever wondered what it would be like to live life as a Toon? Well, here's your chance. Jump online and straight into Toontown, where the city limits are as wide as your imagination. Start by creating your own unique identity and turn yourself into the Toon you always wanted to be. Sweet! Now you're ready to leap into a world of Disney magic. Burst into a never-ending adventure across outrageous new lands. Don't just stand around looking. Get into the action! Toontown is an endless world. Run wild in it. Interact with thousands of other Toons from all over the world. Pick a spot to meet your friends or make a bunch of new ones. Together, you'll discover a whole host of awesome games to play. The more you play, the more you win, and the more gags you get. There's never been a competitive, online, multiplayer, interactive, ever-changing, Disney-inspired, Toon-themed game like this before. But it isn't all salsa and slapstick in Toontown. You've got some corporate robo bad guys to deal with. These evil cogs want to mess up all the fun. How typical of someone in a suit. Battle the cogs with your full arsenal of gags and take back Toontown! You'll need courage, creativity, teamwork, and a massive amount of cream pies. How does this game end? It doesn't. The folks at Disney are making it bigger and better every day. You just play more games, meet more Toons, get more gags, explore new worlds, and it gets crazier and wilder and more! Thanks. I needed that. Toontown, are you Toon enough?
For another example of how effective experience-led design can be, let's fast forward to 2017 and the launch of Star Wars Jedi Challenges. Jedi Challenges was an augmented reality experience that paired head-mounted display with a lightsaber hilt to immerse the user in the world of Star Wars. The experience we wanted to deliver was to make the dream come true for Star Wars fans everywhere. They get to be a Jedi, a lightsaber, and face off against their favorite villains from the films in their very own living room. We decided augmented reality was the best way to deliver this experience. The emotional moment for a fan is when they turn on their lightsaber for the first time. We often saw their jaws drop when this happened. If you do deliver on that emotion, that strong of emotion, then you can make their dream come true, and you definitely have a hit product. We started with the leading platforms in the category, but we quickly discovered that they were not suited for an immersive experience. The field of view was way too small, so you couldn't see your entire lightsaber or find a stormtrooper against a larger background. The device was too heavy, too expensive, or too complicated for a mass audience like our Star Wars fans were. But if we weren't able to use those leading platforms, how could we afford to create our own? Disney's a big company, but they don't typically build hardware. And the other platforms represented investments that were quite large, often in the billions. So how could we hope to build something that was better than what they had for a fraction of the cost? Also, we knew that our audience was Star Wars fans, and regular people like that can't afford to spend thousands of dollars on an augmented reality head-mounted display. In fact, most of them didn't even know what augmented reality was or why they would need a headset. So our challenge was to spend a fraction of the development money to develop a product that would deliver a better experience for our fans and sell at a fraction of the price. And even if we reduced the development cost, we would still need to sell a large number of these headsets to an audience that was unfamiliar with this type of product. Sounds impossible, right? So experience-led design is especially powerful when applied in a situation like this with a technology product. It gives you a huge advantage because it allows you to prioritize and, maybe more importantly, eliminate features that drive up the cost of your product. If you build a tech platform the traditional way, you support a wide range of experiences and content and also include an equally large number of features, and that just drives up cost and complexity. So we built our own platform focused on the experience of being a Jedi with a lightsaber, down to very small details like the vertical field of view is exactly the size that you need to be able to see a lightsaber when you're holding it in front of you. We made it light, we made it optically comfortable, we made it easy to wear in an active play, and most importantly, we threw out everything ruthlessly that wasn't essential to the experience. For field of view, we knew they cared more about seeing their lightsaber and more about seeing multiple stormtroopers at the same time than they did about seeing tiny details. If we were making a design tool, maybe resolution would have mattered more than field of view. But for us, 20 pixels per degree was plenty for a fun experience. And because we had a clear tie-in with a dream that was shared by many in our audience, and we could easily communicate that we could deliver on that dream, we could show it to them, we had the foundation for marketing the product. They didn't need to care about augmented reality or headsets or even technology. They just knew that we were going to let them be a Jedi, and that was enough. The result was we produced the #1 product in the category by a huge margin. We won awards and we delighted fans and created a category. I'll show you a quick video that summarizes the product.
Jedi.
Even though we started with complete focus on lightsabers, we were still able to grow the product into a platform when we introduced Marvel Dimension of Heroes the following year. We replaced the lightsaber hilt with a pair of universal controllers so we could let Marvel fans throw Captain America's shield or Thor's hammer, and a number of other epic attacks from their favorite superheroes. The point being that you can end up on the same place as you would if you were building a broad, fully featured platform, but at a much, much lower cost and risk. So how do you apply experience-led design for your product? First, you start with your audience. Figure out what it is that they want most and define that in terms of an experience. Then use existing technology or even fake it to create that experience and confirm with testing that it really is what they want. That'll tell you whether it's worth building. Next, you build it. Start a design build process that allows you to test the experience and confirm it at every stage. This is critically important because oftentimes design processes will cause you to eliminate features or change the product in ways that might hamper the core experience. So you need to really work hard to protect it. But if you do this, the good news is you already know how to market your product because that experience is what your fans already want. You just need to show them that that's what you can deliver them. In conclusion, most tech companies don't use experience-led design. So there's a big opportunity to make better products at a much lower cost and risk. I hope you enjoyed my talk. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to contact me, my email is in the slide above. Thank you.